Welcome to Myths, Murders, and Monsters. We're your hosts, Alyssa.
And I'm Kelsey.
And today's episode is cryptids. We can't have an episode of cryptids without the world's hide-and-seek champion himself, Bigfoot.
And it's natural to talk about Bigfoot first because you are in love with Bigfoot.
You're right. I am. It's kind of sad, but it's true.
It's true. It's true. We talk about him all the time.
We do.
So what? So where did your obsession with Bigfoot start? Because I don't think you've actually ever told me your apparent Bigfoot sighting.
Yes. I did have what I call a Bigfoot sighting. So back in middle school, I was going to an early morning dentist appointment. And that's how I know it was in middle school, because I had braces and I was a really big nerd, but that's beside the point. So we were driving the back roads of good old rural Iowa, and we were driving along, and I look out my window, and my mom said that my face just went completely white. And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck is that? So she literally slams on her brakes in the car as we're driving along. Thankfully, there was no one around.
Right.
And she was like, what are you looking at? And I was like, I think I just saw a llama, but with sharp teeth. And it was running alongside the car. And the only thing that my mind could process was it was this giant black llama with sharp teeth.
Oh.
And so we turned the car around and we're looking for this thing. And as we're looking, my brain fully processed what I saw. And it wasn't a llama. It was this critter had been running on all fours beside the car because there was this huge ditch.
Okay, I was going to ask, was he on the road or in the trees?
He was in the ditch, in this field, in the middle of this field. And in order for me to be able to, would have been able to see this creature, they would have had to have stand up, they would have had to have stand up, because the ditch was so deep that a regular four-legged animal, you would have been able.
A regular llama,
because apparently I thought it was a llama at the time. You wouldn't have been able to see it. So I as I'm processing this, I'm like, oh my God, it definitely stood up. I made eye contact with this thing. It bared its teeth at me, and then it turned around and ran into the woods.
Ew.
Yeah, it was the single most terrifying thing that I've ever seen. And my mom and I still talk about it to this day. This was back in 2005, I think.
2000 something,
the early 2000s. And we still talk about it, trying to figure out what it was. And then as I furthered my Bigfoot knowledge, I was listening to some podcasts, and a lot of people have experienced something similar. Now, the theory is that Bigfoot, big feet, whatever Bigfoot is, I don't know what you want to call the plural of them. They are different colors. So the one that I saw was really dark fur, almost black. And apparently that's a sign of a juvenile Bigfoot.
Okay.
I guess.
That's so interesting. I've never heard of that.
Right. I didn't know that until I started listening to podcasts and doing research on critters in my area, because I was trying to come up with all of these other things that it could be besides Bigfoot.
So wait, so when you were in middle school at that time, did you know about Bigfoot, or was that your first experience, and when you were looking up things that it could be, Bigfoot popped up?
I mean, my uncle was always into cryptids and everything, so I had heard of Bigfoot, but living in rural Iowa and growing up in the country, that's not something that you really talk about, because let's be honest, all the animals there are farm animals.
Right.
So I'm trying to process do we have bears there? Is it a llama? A really weird looking llama? Is there
you and the llama.
The only thing I could think of was a damn llama. And at one point I had convinced myself that there was a mad scientist living in the wooded area, and it was this hybrid creature that had
could it happen?
Lo and behold, there were no mad scientists in the area.
That's unfortunate.
That I know of. So
did your mom agree that she thought it was Bigfoot?
So she didn't see it. She saw like the outline like running back into the woods, but she
Hmm.
didn't see it like up like how I saw it because thankfully she was like driving on the road looking, paying attention.
Right.
Minus when she slammed on the brakes because, And so like she doesn't know what it is. She thought maybe it was like a black bear or something. But we don't have black bear. Like there's no black bear in Iowa. So like
Right. But so she did see something running into the woods.
yes, yes. So
Okay.
she saw something. She just doesn't know what it was. And like I remember this thing like looking dead at me and it smiled and it had these like
Ooh,
sharp canine like kind of like monkey teeth or like gorilla teeth. When you think of the really big like pointy canine teeth, that's what it looked like. And
that's
like
scary.
yes, it was like forever ingrained into my head of this thing like looking directly at me, standing up and smiling. And I was
Oh,
like, can it take on cars? Like that's when my fascination began of like, could this thing like have taken on our car? Like, was I in like legitimate danger?
right. That's pretty wild.
Yes, yes. So, needless to say, that is when my first obsession with Bigfoot started. And then I started digging into like the lore and everything, and it just went from there.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had any experiences like that, but I know I've heard of so many like other people's encounters and I'm just waiting for one of my own, but at the same time I don't want one of my own.
I mean, I think you have to be more worried about like the Florida skunk ape down there or whatever
Yeah,
it
I've honestly got plenty to worry about down here, so
is. Yeah,
I
you do.
don't need Bigfoot coming to Florida. Unless he's taking some things out with him.
I mean, honestly, just come get rid of all the gators or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think the most infamous sighting of Bigfoot was the one in California. There's actually been a lot in California.
Yes, California, I guess, is like the Bigfoot capital.
Bigfoot capital of the world.
Yes. And I mean, I understand because there's like really good terrain for big feet to hide. Bigfoot, my
Big
bad.
feet to hide. I
The
think if
big,
I was Bigfoot, I would go to California.
honestly, or the Pacific Northwest. Like that's where
Oh, I
I
love the
just
Pacific
chilling in
Northwest.
the woods up there.
The somewhere with woods, mountains, the sea, you got everything all in one.
Yes, yes.
So
So
what
as
do
we
you
were saying,
think about the I think it was Northern California on Bluff Creek was like the
yes,
most infamous like the filmmakers caught a picture of it.
yes, yes. So that was the first like physical evidence that I saw, well, quote unquote evidence that I saw. And it was the Patterson Gimlin film. And you're right, it happened in Northern California on Bluff Creek. And for those of you who don't know what this film is, you need to go look it up right now.
Hmm.
But these people, like this like group of people were out like in Bluff Creek. They had like strange experiences. So they kind of like took their camera out, were filming. And coincidentally enough, they capture this large ape-like humanoid thing walking across the creek.
Oh, I'd be so scared.
Right? I would be like, hello? Like, what do I do? And like in the film, it like turns and looks at them like, like it has this like really big gape, like I don't even know what gate. That's the word that I'm like thinking of.
Yeah.
And arms are like swinging and it like turns and it looks at the camera and then it just keeps going.
Hmm.
And yeah, right? Like insane. It doesn't like interact with them, which makes me think like, are they just used to humans?
Right, because you would think that it would do something besides just be like walking la-di-da like it's on a nature hike. But here's the thing, if it is so used to humans that it just walks by them so naturally without running like from being scared or attacking from being afraid, how like why would there not be more sightings of this Bigfoot? Because I'm sure that's a popular area to hike.
Yes. That's a good question. I have thoughts on why we don't see them, but we can get into that a little bit later. So, back to this footage. Now, it's like one of the most clearest images of Bigfoot. Like We're looking at it right now. You can see it, right?
Yeah, we'll link it below for everyone else to see too.
Yes. But like it literally looks like this fuzzy, really tall ape-like creature.
Right.
Now, with this footage, they got a lot of like hate for it. Because
like people thinking that it was faked.
Yes. Because how could it be that they were at the right place at the right time to see this critter and it turn and look at them and then just keep going?
Yeah. Well, that's
So
the whole thing about sightings, though, is that it is right place, right time type of situations.
this is true. This is true. Now, I did hear one crazy theory about this that I kind of want to get into for a second.
Okay.
So allegedly, through all of the Bigfoot and Sasquatch podcasts that I've listened to, allegedly they caught this Bigfoot. They think that this Bigfoot was a female, and they caught the baby, and they were keeping the baby hostage in order to kind of make this Bigfoot do what they wanted.
Oh, that
Isn't
seems
that
like a smart idea.
right? I mean, I would not want to tempt fate with that, but okay.
Right.
So, yes, that is one of the most infamous sightings in California.
Okay.
So, speaking of Bigfoot videos, Kelsey, do you want to tell us about the second one we've got on our list today?
Yes, so the second one is the Marble Mountain Bigfoot video, and this is probably one of my favorite Bigfoot videos because it's so long and you kind of get like multiple angles.
Yeah. I watched it earlier and I was just like, what?
I mean,
Wild.
So to start, and we'll link the video for everyone to see, but
Yes.
to start, it was a group of about, I think, 15 campers. It was like a youth group. And the leader was recording, and they're zooming in on this creature type thing that's walking down the mountain. And it's a good distance away if you watch the video. I mean, he has to zoom in pretty far. But what gets me the most about the video is that they are so nonchalant about this apparent Bigfoot fairly close to their camp.
They are. They really are. That was what was shocking to me. They're like, oh, hey, Bigfoot. Like it wasn't a big deal. And then like earlier in the video, they kind of show like they've stumbled upon this camp type thing.
Yeah.
And like they were kind of showing how like the trees weren't broken by an axe or a saw or anything, which is wild to me because I've heard stories of like Bigfoot pulling trees up from the root and like forming arches and stuff. But this was like a well-made shelter.
It was. And they're just so nonchalant about it. And I mean, the kids are funny because, you know, they don't understand. But the adults, if it were me, I would be getting out of there so quick.
Yes. And they're like, surprisingly, like 3 days later, we're still here. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
Bye.
That would have been it for me. And like at one point, someone was like, is the Bigfoot coming towards us?
Right. And none of them were scared. They're like, okay, cool.
They acted like it was a common thing. But
Yes.
let's talk about like the actual Bigfoot itself. So the way whatever this was walking down the mountain, there's just no way in my mind that it could have been a human.
Same, agreed. I was looking at the stride of it, and the stride is just huge. And we have to remember that this, like, they zoomed in really close to this thing. Like, you can see, like, a snowy bank that they had to zoom over. I'm surprised they saw it in the first place.
I'm surprised, too, because it was so far. And I guess the angle was just, it hit it in perfect lighting that the creature was against the sky. So they could kind of make out something moving. But yeah, I mean, they had to zoom in far to get that. So it was pretty blurry, but the arms were so long too.
Yes, they pointed that out, like how the arms are like down by the knees, which is a common theme that I've heard other people who've encountered Bigfoot talk about, is that their arms are super long.
Yes. I just don't see what else it could be. And these people, you know, at some point they were saying that the Bigfoot kind of stopped to look at them. They said a lot of things, that it was like jumping up and down and like shaking it, but I didn't see that in the video. Like it kind of, but it did. looked like it kind of had stopped and was staring at them and maybe even walking a little bit towards them at some point.
I think my favorite comment from the video was, "Oh, he probably thinks there's a group of Bigfoot down here." It was some teenage kid that said that, and I was like, "Yep, you're right. That he probably thinks that you're fellow Bigfoot."
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly what he's thinking.
But it was funny that they just sat there like, "Oh, he looks so mad." At that point, I would have been running the opposite direction.
I know.
If anyone told me that Bigfoot looked mad at me, I'd just like, "I'm sorry, bro. I gotta go."
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way. That would have been me out there, but hey. They got some good video.
They did. I'm looking at like stills from the Patterson Gimlin film, and then I'm looking at the still from the Marble Mountain film, and the posture of this creature they look almost identical.
Yeah, they do. And I don't know how long Bigfoots are supposed to live, but this camp is actually only about 30 miles from where that photo was taken.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
So it would have had to been, it was like, what, 40 years later or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
But, I don't know how long they live for.
Wild. I need to know this. Like, what is the average lifespan of a Bigfoot?
Not only that, but how many are there? Like, are they reproducing at what rate? And
they have to be.
Are there families just like in different, like very secluded areas, or are there more than we even realize?
I feel like they are in little herds. Like they're just little families.
Yeah.
Similar to like other herd-like animals. They have like the leader group, the alpha male, and then just sub families living in this pack. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
And thinking about it more, I don't know what else realistically could live in the area that this video was filmed.
Right.
Because he was far up in the mountains.
He was high up in the mountains. You can see that there's snow. It doesn't look like there's a backpack or anything. Like if it was a human, I feel like you'd be able to tell that it was a human.
It would have been a lot smaller.
I don't even know if they would have noticed it.
Yeah, I don't know that they would have.
Whoever spotted that has eagle vision. I want to know, were they using like a telescope, binoculars? I don't know who carries a telescope out with them, but
Well, it almost seems like they were, it actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is kind of weird because they had stumbled upon the camp and then they did see that Bigfoot in the distance, like right after they stumbled upon the camp.
Are you going towards it was too convenient?
Well, it kind of just clicked in my head that I'm like, wait, they were at the camp and then all of a sudden someone was like, there's a Bigfoot right there.
But we don't know from the time that they stumbled to the camp if the Bigfoot suddenly appeared. Like, we don't know the time frame of it.
No, but they suddenly saw it.
We see them at the camp, but we don't know if there was like a pause in the recording and then they saw the Bigfoot.
You could tell it was like a straight recording. You could tell they didn't pause.
Editing.
Yeah, but A, there wasn't that great of editing back then, and B,
it was in 2001.
Yes, and have you seen the movies made from then versus now? I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I'm saying it seemed like a very straight shot video.
Lord of the Rings, Kelsey.
Okay. I'm just saying, I was very convinced, and now, like, it just kind of flipped in my head, like, wait a minute, they did stumble upon that, and then someone was like, hey, there's a Bigfoot literally right there.
It almost is reminiscent of the Patterson Gimlin film, Right Place, Right Time.
Yeah.
Or do you not believe in coinkydinks?
I do, but that did just kind of put a little bit of doubt in my mind.
I know you had like this aha moment.
I did. I really did. I was super for it. And then I was like, wait.
I'm still for it. I
want to still be for it. I do want to still be for it. But I just don't know how they could have faked it.
Right. They would have had to been communicating with super long range walkie talkies to tell, if it was a human, to tell the person up there, all right, go, you know?
Yeah.
But again, we had talked about the terrain, and it just feels like that terrain would have been impossible for a normal, average sized human person.
Yeah, and it didn't look like a bear or anything.
Do you know any bears that walk on two legs continuously?
Yes, there are bears that do that.
But for the entire time? This is a 7-minute video. Have you seen a 7-minute video
Right,
of a
but it
bear?
wasn't a 7. The whole thing wasn't on him for the whole 7 minutes.
Editing.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So they could have been like panned away when it was on its foreleg. I don't think it was a bear. I'm just saying.
The shape, it doesn't look like a bear. It honestly looks, again, the posture honestly looks like the Bigfoot from the Patterson Gimlin film.
Well, I do think a lot of Bigfoots kind of generally look alike. So what's the main description of a Bigfoot?
The main description, that's a good question. The main description of a Bigfoot is a large, hairy, human-like mythical creature. That is the main description of the Bigfoot. And then it goes into more detail of it's large, muscular, a bipedal human or ape-like creature covered in black, dark, or brown reddish hair. That doesn't help me with this in this instance because we can't see what color of hair it has.
Right.
And then the estimated height. Guess what the estimated height of a Bigfoot is?
12 foot.
Wrong.
What?
The average estimated height is 6 to 9 feet.
Oh.
But there are some who believe that they can be upwards of 10 to 15 feet, which makes me think that maybe those are like the alpha Bigfoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
It is suspicious. It is a little bit suspicious.
Definitely.
But these two I feel like are pretty convincing.
Yeah, I'm sold with these. Now, people like to say, well, if there's Bigfoot, why is there no evidence? But there is evidence. There have been people who have been like collecting footprints over the years, and, like making impressions of them and selling them. And so for the ones that are like skeptic and say that there's no evidence, there is. It's whether or not you believe it. Now I'm looking at a picture here and it looks like a giant monkey foot, but it's in the snow.
It's in the snow, yes. And it looks like there's a pitchfork next to it to show the size.
Yeah, like an ice pick kind of thing.
Yes.
That is huge. Like that looks like it's like a size 20 foot.
Right. And so that was captured by a British explorer who, fun fact, later that picture was sold for $5,000.
To who?
I don't know who bought it. But it was sold for in 2014 for almost $5,000.
Like the original image?
Yes.
That is insane.
Right?
So clearly there are people who really believe in these things.
Right.
Which is wild.
Wild.
There are a bunch more sightings. The leading theory behind these sightings, what do you think it is?
So there's a lot of conspiracies whether or not Bigfoot is some type of hybrid government experiment gone wrong. Which, fair. There's a lot of speculation whether it's from another planet, like an alien type situation.
Yes.
What do you think?
So the leading theory that I have heard over the years is that it's just a bunch of people dressed up in gorilla suits running around the woods.
Just messing with people.
Messing with people. And that's
I kind of like that theory.
And that's why you never see them, is just because it's people messing with other people. Do I believe that? No. I mean, it's a funny theory, but no, I do not believe that it is humans dressed up as gorillas running around in the woods.
I feel like there's a flaw in that humans can only be so big and be so fast and hide so well. If that was true, there would have been uncoverings, many uncoverings by now.
Yes, if that was true, there'd be a lot more evidence. And like I've been watching videos, like the breakdowns of like the Patterson Gimlin footage and that type of stuff. And they do like 3D rendering of the gait of their walk. And like their like leg span is like 6 or 7 feet. A normal person cannot, like, their legs don't spread that far apart to walk.
Right. There's no way to fake that.
No. So I, as you know, am a believer in cryptids. I believe in Bigfoot.
Yes.
I've had people ask me, like, well, why is there no evidence? You see, there are a couple of theories that I have about this. One, they live in the mountains. Like, they have their like own society underneath the mountains, and they only come out to like forage and get supplies. And that's why we don't see them. Now, my boyfriend likes to argue with me and say, but there would be evidence of like dwindling deer population, for example, if they are carnivores.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we know that they're carnivores? We don't. Also, we don't have an accurate reading of like the deer population in every forest in the Pacific Northwest.
That's true. Well, and I mean, think of Alaska, for example. 90% of Alaska is uninhibited.
Exactly.
So you have no clue what's out there.
Exactly. And then the next theory, and this was my uncle's theory, is that Bigfoot is an intergalactic being who, the reason that they can't be seen is because they have technology to like camouflage, kind of like a chameleon. They can blend in with their surroundings.
That's interesting.
Right? That is a very interesting thought. Now, maybe he's not far off, because there are some videos where it takes you a while to be able to see where they are, but it could just be that their coloring just matches the terrain as an adaptation and evolution throughout the year.
They kind of blend in with their surroundings.
Yes, it's a survival technique. The last theory that I heard, and this has come from like a lot of Sasquatch podcasts, is that the government is protecting them.
Yes, I've heard that too.
They've relocated like all of them into national forests. They have that area protected, and anyone in the area who has said that they've encountered it and had evidence has had weird encounters with like military groups and like government type people who essentially say that they need to get rid of their footage or something bad's going to happen to them and their family.
Oh.
Yeah. Why they're protecting the Bigfoot, I don't know.
They're working with the Bigfoot.
They're working with the Bigfoot, oh my God. So,
but let's be honest, if we're going to bank on something, I think the government hiding something from us is probably a good bet to bank on.
Yes. Now, the last out there theory that I believed in at one time, because I also believe in aliens and like the intergalactic alliance,
right,
is that Bigfoot, along with all other cryptids, are sent here as their form of prison. And that's why there aren't so many, because they're the worst of the worst and they're just sent here to live out the rest of their days on our planet.
So you would think, though, that there would be a lot more Bigfoot attacks then if that were the case. They would just be kind of causing chaos if they were the worst of the worst Bigfoots.
You would think, but maybe they're being like subdued in a way, like we can't let people know that this is what we're actually doing. So they're like prison guards, keep them in line. Oh my God, what if the government's their prison guards?
I mean, hey, maybe.
Keep them in line.
We're on to something here.
I figured it out.
We figured it out. Oh my gosh.
It's only taken me 34 years to figure it out. Obviously, that's the answer.
So I think it's interesting because these Bigfoot sightings started back in as early as the 1800s. There's been reports of Bigfoot, right?
Right.
Well, obviously the the way people communicate now is much different. The way people see the world is much different. People can travel like they used to not be able to travel as easily as we can travel.
Mhm.
And they couldn't document things as easily or spread information as easily.
Mhm.
So, so it only makes sense that more Bigfoot sightings are, happening now than ever before.
Yes, agreed.
So
Agreed.
my question is, why are there not more? Like I know you talked about maybe they could be invisible and things like that. But you would think, with how many people go to these national parks and such now.
I think that it is your mind can only process what you believe.
Yeah.
If it's something that's so out of the ordinary for you, your brain is going to associate it with something that you already know. So, like with me and the llama thing.
The llama. We're back at the llama.
I understand the llama.
It's the llama running for its life.
But honestly, like that's how your brain works.
Right.
So
That's
it means
fair.
that like these Bigfoot are like literally like walking side by side and people are like, oh, it's a tree. Like, they're not really,
Yeah,
not
well,
really.
and especially if the Bigfoot would pause or something, not pause, but like freeze when it saw humans, or maybe they are more intelligent than we're giving them credit for, and they are very good at hiding and eluding humans.
I think that they are intelligent. There are stories out there where they've had like communications with Bigfoot, and that like one of the primary ways that Bigfoot talks to other Bigfoot in the forest is like they knock on trees. I don't know if you've heard this, but it's called like tree knocking.
Okay.
And they like whoop at people. They go whoop whoop.
Oh,
That was my Bigfoot impression. You're
that
welcome.
was really good.
Yes. I've been practicing.
Just for this.
To me, I think that that shows a higher level of intelligence.
Yeah. Well,
That's
it shows them they've adapted to their surroundings, so they're capable of communicating. They're capable of living in the wild and surviving. They're
yes,
capable of evolution.
yes, which is important because that's how they survive.
So kind of important.
It's kind of an important thing. And then there's instances of like them leaving like rocks and like trinket things out for people
Okay.
that have like shown respect, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how you show respect to a Bigfoot. I would think that you just don't look it in the eye and you're like, hi, and then just walk away.
Just keep moving, yeah.
I don't know.
Don't chase it.
Obviously not. And then people are like, well, with this day and age, why are people not taking pictures on their phone? And to
That's
me,
my question.
it's
Because it's the
explain.
same with the aliens. It's the same with the aliens. Like, why is every photo and every video so blurry? Like, can we get a good picture of a UFO already?
I mean, no. But
No, we can't.
it's easily explainable to me because, like, with what I saw, I didn't pull out my phone right away because I was so stunned at what I was seeing.
Well,
And
yeah,
like,
and yours was like kind of like a brief moment, but these people who are in the woods and taking a 7-minute video.
maybe the reason that all of these are blurry is that they're like quickly getting out their phones to get it and then they're gone.
Yeah, that's true, especially if they do all of a sudden like hibernate into the background.
Hibernate.
You know what I mean. What's the word I'm looking for?
Blend in.
No, but I'm looking for a specific word.
Camouflage.
Camouflage into the background. I mean, that works, but that's not what I was looking for.
All right, fine. Hibernate.
What word that's gonna drive me crazy now.
Well, you see, we're not going to go down this road because every time we think of a word and we try to say it, we just mess it up. So we're not going to go down.
True. What am I thinking of?
So, what are your thoughts? Do you think Bigfoot is real or no?
I think it's a fair chance that it's real. I would like to believe that all these cryptids are real, and I definitely think some weird shit goes down in the forests.
Yes.
So I think my vote is gonna have to be yes, because in my opinion, just because there's no solid evidence that doesn't mean that it's not there.
Exactly.
if that
I'm
makes sense.
I'm very much a seeing is believing kind of person. And until like I have physical proof, I can't say that it doesn't exist because I've never seen it. Just because
Yes.
I've never seen it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Right. And the fact that the sightings have been around for so long and they're all generally the same descriptions.
That lends credence toward as well.
And
Because
that's before the internet came around where anyone could just look up the description and say the exact same, they saw the exact same thing.
exactly. It's kind of those things like with every mythical creature. There's something behind it. In
Yeah.
every culture, there is a form of Bigfoot. So
Yes.
clearly they're seeing something. We
Right.
just know what it is.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Just, so maybe, humans gave the name to Bigfoot,
Right.
and that, it may be something real out there that we just don't know. I mean, how there are discoveries still today of animals that, new discoveries of animals today that no one has ever heard of, and they've just been hiding, especially in the ocean,
Yeah.
because so much of the ocean is unexplored. Well, who's
You
to
know,
say that there isn't some type of creature out there that humans just haven't discovered yet?
you know my thoughts on the ocean.
I know your thoughts on the ocean, yes.
So that'll be a different episode. Well, friends, that brings us to the end of our cryptids episode. If you have any encounters with cryptids that you'd like to share with us, drop them in the comments and we will talk about it.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. We will be talking about all things myths, murders, and monsters.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.